morning and welcome on this beautiful July 18th to our One World Spiritual Center online gathering. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very grateful that you're here. If you are watching or listening for the first time, let me extend to you a special welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you are unfamiliar with One World, you may be asking yourself, who are you? What is it that you do? We are an interspiritual community, which means that every week we draw on the wisdom of the world's enduring faith traditions to talk about and explore in community principles of love and compassion and kindness and peace. We are so fortunate today to be able to access the wisdom of so many hundreds and thousands of years and so many teachers and sages who have taught us to live together in love, to care for each other, to take care of all of creation, to care for our Mother Earth, how to live in community so that each one of us may flourish and prosper and live in joy and peace, and so that we can do so in community. When you're listening to us, you may be hearing from teachings of Lao Tzu, Confucius, the Buddha, Jesus, the Hebrew prophets, the Hindu Upanishads, the Holy Quran. There is so much wisdom out there, and we do our best here to access it so that each one of us can build his or her own individual spiritual paths, and so that we can share and celebrate and grow in community. So welcome. We have a wonderful gathering for you today. Our theme for July is how we connect with the sacred, how we touch the holy. And our speaker today is Reverend Kell, and she is going to be talking about healing prayer. We also have the opportunity this week to bless our kids, to join together in community prayer ourselves, joining our light and our love together to listen to some fabulous One World music and to be the beloved community that we are. So again, I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you. So before we get started, let's just take a minute and bring our awareness and our attention to this right now. If your life is anything like mine, there is so much going on. Your mind is buzzing and zooming, and there's so much detail. Our to-do lists only get longer. For right now, let's just lay them aside and commit to being here in this present moment. So take a breath and just feel your mind and your body relax. Smile. It's a beautiful day. As we anchor our awareness in this right now. And breathe. And so before we jump into the remainder of our gathering, I'd like to share with you a poem that I'm sure, or you may be familiar with. It's called One Song, and it's by the Sufi mystic Rumi. And what it does is it talks about oneness. It talks about how we are all connected, how we are all one. And that is such an important message for us to hear and internalize these days, when there is so much division and so much dissension and so much pulling us apart. We need to remember there is more that binds us together. And so I invite you to listen. Every war and every conflict between human beings has happened because of some disagreement about names. It is such an unnecessary foolishness, because just beyond the arguing, there is a long table of companionship set and waiting for us to sit down. What is praised is one, so the praise is one too, many jugs being poured into a huge basin, all religions, all this singing, one song. The differences are just illusion and vanity. Sunlight looks a little different on this wall than it does on that wall, and a lot different on this other one, but it is the same light. We have borrowed these clothes, these time and space personalities from a light, and when we praise, we are pouring them back in. One light, one song. Let's move forward in that energy, in that knowledge, and in that awareness. And so with that, I am pleased to bring you our opening song. Please enjoy. This is our opportunity to join our hearts and our light together in reflection and in prayer, in support of each other, our community, and our greater world. When we do that, when we join our hearts and our lights together, it is a powerful thing. It makes a difference when we send that energy out into the greater universe. So let's take a moment, take a breath, move your awareness from your busy mind down to your heart space, feeling it warm and soften and open with willingness to share your light and your love with others right now in community prayer. Creator God, we are grateful for this community, for all the souls listening or watching right now. We are grateful for the opportunity each one of us has to bring our joy, our creativity, our wisdom, our gifts to this world, to each other, to our community. We are willing and we are grateful, and to all of it we say yes, and so it is. If you have a beloved on your heart, resting in your awareness, or an upcoming challenge or circumstance in your own life, let's just take the next few seconds and let it rest on your awareness as we place it into the center of our loving circle, knowing it is heard, knowing healing is coming. We're also going to take some time today and pray for those affected by extreme weather patterns in Europe, by the rain and the floods, and in our own Pacific Northwest by fire and heat. Let's take a moment and hold all those beloved in our hearts as well. Maker of all, Creator God, we release to you all resting on our awareness and in our hearts, our beloved, our own challenges, our life circumstances, these horizons over which we cannot see, but we know that you can. We release them all to you, knowing that healing is coming, knowing the greater good is unfolding, knowing that all is well. We give thanks for healing and renewal to come. And we widen the circle to include all those affected, killed, or displaced or injured by the extreme weather patterns that Mother Earth is facing right now, by flooding and rains in Europe, by fire and extreme heat in our own Pacific Northwest. May all affected by these weather patterns be sustained and protected. May we know what we can do to help, whether it is in giving of resources, continued prayer, contributing our own gifts and time. Let our global and national communities come together to face these weather challenges, to face the challenge of climate change. May we care for this beautiful creation with which we have been gifted. May we change our patterns of consumption, of spoliation, to care for our earth, and in so doing, to care for all of life, not only each other, but for the four-footers, those who fly, those that walk on 4 feet, those that slide along the ground. May we care for all of creations. May we be the loving stewards that we have the power to be, but which we have failed to be. Help us make better choices. Help us come together in community with awareness and determination and grit to make the choices we need to make, to reverse these patterns which right now are causing such pain and loss and devastation. We give thanks for the opportunity to make this difference. We are willing to make this difference. And so it is. And together we say, Amen. So as we close out our prayer time, our time of reflection, I'd like to share with you I'm just looking at a butterfly. I'd like to share with you a beautiful poem by Anne Sexton. It's from the book published after her death called The Awful Rowing Toward God. For those familiar with Anne Sexton, you'll remember that she had a troubled life. She certainly wrestled with her demons, but she was also acutely aware of the possibility of joy even in the midst of darkness. With every choice we make, we can make the decision to look toward joy. A lot of it is awareness of just being present in each beautiful moment. And as we face challenges, as we move forward in a world that is troubling, it is a comforting message that we can do so, keeping our hold on what is joyful, on what is light, on what is lovely, even as we move forward to do what we must to make this world a better and a more peaceful and loving place. And so I invite you to listen to this beautiful poem from her book, The Awful Rowing Toward God. There is joy in all, in the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon in the chair that cry, "Hello there, Anne," each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate cup upon each morning. All this is God, right here in my pea green house each morning. And I mean, though often forget, to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing, as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my palm for this God, this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young. So let's move forward, not in despair, but in hope and faith and joy, as we share these beautiful moments, as we move forward to do the work that needs to be done. And so with that, I'm thrilled to bring you our special music, followed by a talk by Reverend Chris Kell on healing prayer. Please enjoy.
And you can sing along. It's very easy on the chorus. Why you in so much hurry? Is it really worth the worry? Work it out and slow down. What's it like inside the boat? Does your head ever give you trouble? It's no secret. Hang on, help's on its way. I'll be there as fast as I can.
morning. Our theme this month is prayer, and my topic today is healing prayer, fact or fantasy. The subject of prayer itself is huge, and as with any idea, philosophy, or concept concerning spirituality and or religion, it can involve hours of discourse in order to reach even a simple understanding of any one aspect of this theme. And as you all know, I am quite capable of going on at some length about a subject I like, and healing prayer or spiritual healing is no exception, but I promise to try to keep myself under control. I'd like to start by talking just a bit about prayer in general, at least as I understand it, and then present some ideas about healing prayer specifically. And for the purposes of today's talk, when speaking of the divine, I will most often use the word God as my personal identifier. Although, as we all know, there are many other names we could choose, such as the universal mind, supreme being, goddess, Allah, the Tao, Brahma, or a myriad of other words. Also, prayer, as I will be talking about it, comes out of my Western Christian background, specifically Catholicism, as that is what I'm most familiar with. My apologies for leaving out other traditions, but this is not because of denial of the validity and sacredness of those traditions, but simply for time's sake and my own lack of knowledge. I do believe, however, that the same basic ideas about prayer as a way of communicating with the divine apply to the majority of traditions. Reverend Alistair McCollum of St. John the Divine Anglican Church tells us that in the Christian faith and in many other spiritual traditions, prayer is a way of being in the moment, being present, being open. Prayer is a recognition of being alive and being human found in all traditions throughout time. It is one of the most ancient expressions of belief in a power greater than ourselves. From its primitive beginnings to contemporary expression, prayer conveys a human desire to enter into personal dialogue with the sacred. Anyone is capable of communicating with the divine. So then, other than a conversation with God, what is prayer? How do we talk to God? This ineffable being who is at once here with us and yet beyond our imagination and description. For some, prayer will mean specific sacred words. For others, it may be a more informal talking or listening to a higher power. Spanish mystic Saint Teresa of Avila describes it as an intimate friendship, a frequent conversation held alone with the beloved. The act of praying takes a variety of forms. Prayers may be formal or spontaneous. They can be in the form of poems, hymns, benedictions, litanies, blessings, or rituals. They can be silent, said aloud, alone, or with a group, or physical in nature, such as through songs, dance, and other performance art forms. Some common types of prayer include intercessory prayer, petitionary prayer, prayers of contrition and repentance, prayers of praise, prayers of thanksgiving, and prayers of adoration. Healing prayer is a form of intercessory prayer in which we ask the divine for relief of illness, injury, or some dis-ease of the body or mind, usually based on some type of religious belief system held by the sick person and or by the person praying. Spiritual healing is a direct interaction between the healer or prayer and a second individual, the person being prayed over, with the intention of bringing about an improvement in the second person's condition. According to encyclopedia.com, the use of prayer to improve health dates back thousands of years and is a vital principle of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Even in a non-theistic religion such as Buddhism, prayer is important in healing. Spiritual healing in the West is based on biblical times, when some of the Hebrew prophets and Jesus used the power of prayer to heal the sick and injured. In the Jewish and Christian religions, praying for healing and medical miracles has been common for 3,000 years. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, believed that the mind and body were separate. This point of view was reinforced by Rene Descartes, and believe it or not, is the foundation of modern Western medicine with its almost exclusive concentration on the physical aspects of disease. The contribution of emotions, thoughts, relationships, and spirituality to disease and health treatments were either ignored or discounted. Consequently, despite the specific evidence pointing to the effectiveness of prayer, it is not generally accepted as a treatment by the Western medical community. Since the 1960s, there has been an increase in interest about the effectiveness of prayer, meditation, and other mind-body approaches to health and healing. Emory University there in Atlanta is one of the leaders in the mind, body, and meditation approach. However, many physicians and other medical professionals continue in their skepticism, and some refuse to even consider the effectiveness of healing prayer, claiming there is no scientific proof of the efficacy of prayer in the healing process, nor scientific rationale for the concepts underlying spiritual healing. Moreover, the critics maintain that even if such healing existed, it is unclear how nonspecific energy can enhance specific self-healing processes within the body. Their conclusion has been and continues to be, in many cases, that testing is inconclusive at best and that clinical evidence does not indicate spiritual healing is an effective means of symptom management. Yet, according to research conducted by leading spiritual health care expert, medical doctor, and author Larry Dossey, there is an enormous body of evidence pointing to the effectiveness of prayer in the healing process. He found over 100 experiments exhibiting the criteria of good science, many conducted under stringent laboratory conditions, and over half of which show that prayer brings about significant changes in a variety of living beings. Dr. Dossey writes, these studies showed clearly that prayer can take many forms. Results occurred not only when people prayed for explicit outcomes, but also when they prayed for nothing specific. Some studies, in fact, showed that a simple, thy will be done approach was quantitatively more powerful than when specific desired results were held in the mind. In many experiments, a simple attitude of prayerfulness, an all-pervading sense of holiness, and a feeling of empathy, caring, and compassion for the entity in need seemed to set the stage for healing. Dr. Dossey was so convinced of the power of healing prayer, he incorporated it in his own practice. Other studies have shown prayer can prevent people from getting sick, and when they do get sick, prayer can help them get better faster. In the United States, prayer is the most frequently used form of alternative medicine. According to integrative health expert Dr. Wayne Jonas, surveys indicate that nearly 90% of patients with serious illness will engage in prayer for the alleviation of their suffering or disease. And in research conducted by Dr. Christina Polchowski, director of the George Washington Institute for Spirituality and Health, she found that after oral pain medication, prayer is the second most common method of pain management and the most common non-drug method of pain management. So obviously, the purpose of healing prayer is for the person being prayed for to get well. Yet, what does that mean? Well, physical healing, of course, the return of the body to good health and well being. But are there other types of healing involved? The answer is yes. Healing encompasses a broad range of positive outcomes, including a person's emotional, spiritual, and psychological outlook, as well as the health of the physical body. It has been shown that healing prayers help with stress management, lifting the person prayed over from despair. She or he knows that they are not isolated and alone, thus sheltering them from needless mental and emotional suffering, promoting peace of mind, and conveying a sense of being in community. Prayer offers new meaning, new purpose, hope, and a sense of guidance or control. These perceptions may help instill a fighting spirit, which has been reported to be an important factor in healing. Prayer can enrich the quality of one's life and also bring a feeling of peace and acceptance at the time of death. One word for health in Hebrew, shalom, also means wholeness, safety, or peace. In Christian contexts, healing generally included forgiveness, just as Jesus often forgave sins and healed bodies at the same time. Pope Benedict XVI teaches us that health is a gift, but it's subordinate to the higher gift of salvation. He explained it this way in a Sunday address. This Sunday's gospel presents Jesus healing 10 lepers, of whom only one, a Samaritan and therefore a foreigner, returned to thank him. The Lord said to him, "Rise and go your way. Your faith has made you well." This gospel passage invites us to a twofold reflection, says the Pope. It first evokes two levels of healing. One, more superficial, concerns the body. The other, deeper level, touches the innermost depths of the person, what the Bible calls the heart, and from there spreads to the whole of a person's life. He goes further, stating that complete and radical healing is salvation. By making a distinction between health and salvation, even ordinary language helps us to understand that salvation is far more than health. Indeed, it is new, full, and definitive life. Furthermore, Jesus here, as in other circumstances, says the words, "Your faith has made you whole." It is faith that saves human beings, reestablishing them in their profound relationship with God, themselves, and with others. Pope Benedict tells us both how and why healing prayer works with this statement: it is faith that saves human beings. At its core, prayer is about faith. Both the one praying and the one being prayed about must believe and trust that prayer works, that prayer is answered. When healing, Jesus' emphasis was always on faith and forgiveness rather than the healing itself. When Jesus healed the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years, he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." When Jesus healed two blind men, he said, "According to your faith, will it be done to you?" When Jairus requested healing for his daughter, Jesus said, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed." And in Acts, we read, "By faith in the name of Jesus, this man whom you see and know was made strong." Faith is the foundation for healing prayer. And as spiritual teacher Marcel Martin in her blog, A Whole Heart, tells us, opening ourselves to be channels of divine healing requires humility. Although we may have strong ideas about what we want to happen, and these ideas may be good, we must let the mysterious power of God come through us without being able to know or control exactly what form healing might take. Even though so much about healing prayer is out of our control, the power is real. We are invited to be channels of divine healing for others and for the world. If we open up to do so, much healing can happen, especially when we unite in doing this collectively. Society itself and human culture can undergo profound transformation and healing as more people join together in praying for collective wholeness and well being, not only for ourselves, but for the planet. In the Catholic Church, prayers for intercession are part of every Mass, and those attending often ask the congregation to pray for the health of someone who is sick or hospitalized. In Judaism, a prayer for the sick is a regular part of services, and members of the synagogue may either call out the names of individuals who are ill or ask the rabbi to announce them. In the Muslim faith, members of the congregation may ask the imam to say a special prayer for a person who is sick, with the congregation affirming the prayer. And here at One World, healing prayer is a regular part of our weekly gathering. Physical healing should lead to spiritual healing, and it will if we have the faith that God still heals people as he did 2,000 years ago. Healing is a spiritual gift that presupposes an unshakable trust in God. Yet, even the most heartfelt and fervent prayer is not a guarantee of a return to perfect health. And when healing doesn't happen, it is faith that sustains us. As we learn in the book of Romans, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know they are good for us. They help us learn to endure. Good health and can be desired and asked for, but if we remain sick, despite doing our part in following the medical advice, we should surrender to circumstances with the faith and trust advised by St. Teresa. For though, she says, I bore my illness most joyfully, I still wanted to get well. But sometimes I reflected that I might regain my health and yet be lost, and that it would be better to stay as I was. But I always thought that I should serve God much better if I recovered. This is our mistake, never to resign ourselves absolutely to what the Lord does, though he knows best what suits us. Healing prayer does not replace the care that comes through the scientific community, nor does it promise a cure. Regardless of the outcome, turning to the divine in prayer will soothe the spirit and bring peace. So far, I've been talking about healing prayer, spiritual healing, and I want to take a moment to mention energy healing. Generally speaking, energy healers are concerned with the sick person's body and the physical symptoms of the disease. These healers direct their energy outward and concentrate on replenishing or changing the energy flow of the patient, although many energy healers also use prayer in their practice as a form of energy healing. Examples of energy healing include Reiki, therapeutic touch, Qigong, and pranic healing. Psychic healers are also able to relieve symptoms, often from a distance with their minds. A spiritual healer is primarily concerned with the way of being and allows divine consciousness to express itself through the healer to the inner levels of the person being prayed for. Spiritual healers channel energy through themselves, directing it to the body, mind, and spirit of the patient, and then re energizing the patient to start the healing process at a level deep inside. But where does this energy come from? And who is actually doing the healing? The spiritual gift of healing is one of the charismatic gifts of the Holy Spirit, originally given to the apostles to help them fulfill their mission. This charism, or gift of healing, has been passed on and can bring all types of healing to those in need, including physical, emotional, psychological, and relationship needs. Those who have this gift are compassionate toward the sick and pray over them regularly. They have great faith and trust that God can and will heal some and are not deterred when others are not completely healed. Their ultimate concern is the spiritual well being of those being healed and their relationship with the divine. Spiritual healers try every method of healing God gives them. The actual healing always comes from God at His discretion. However, there are conditions for receiving and persevering in the charismatic life of a spiritual healer: faith and trust in the divine, purity of heart, diligence and meditation for guidance from the divine, a life of prayer, a desire to serve with unconditional love, study with other experienced teachers, and openness to being a conduit of spirit. The gift of healing must be strengthened through constant personal prayer and the practice of praying for the sick. The more this gift is practiced, the stronger it manifests. Although some healers do go through a training process, many develop their healing gifts on their own. Whether or not you have the charismatic gift of healing, you can still offer meaningful and expectant healing prayers through your relationship with the divine and the authority that gives you. Any caring person can develop a certain amount of healing ability through meditation, prayer, and practice. Most ministers of healing suggest that we be specific in our prayer, that we visualize as clearly as possible what we are asking God to heal. Such a specific request not only can enliven our own faith, it may also stimulate the faith of the sick person as she or he listens and pictures in their own mind what we are asking God to do, helping that person with this imagination become more actively involved in the prayer. Ending every prayer with gratitude and the words, "Thy will be done," also helps the person being prayed over to understand and accept that healing is not granted to everyone, and it is not that being healed is a tragedy or a reflection on who we are. Healing is a sacred art, a divine process in which healing the body first requires healing the spirit. And to heal both requires faith, faith in the divine, as well as faith in the scientific and medical community. And that's not fantasy, that's fact. And so it is. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon.
Today's reading comes from Sacred Healing, The Curing Power of Energy and Spirituality by C. Norman Shealy, MD. He writes, "What is sacred healing? You have heard of spiritual healing, but sacred? What's the difference? Spiritual is of relating to or concerned with the soul or spirit, according to Webster's New Lexington Dictionary, the animating or vital principle of life. Sacred means holy, consecrated, or related to worship of God. The spirit is part of that which is created by God, but sacred implies a reverence for God itself. And if you are one who believes in God, then sacred implies the reverence for all things created by God. Thus, sacred includes a reverence for life itself, for the principles of life, and for all that sustain life. In this sense, all healing is sacred, and all therapies intended for healing are sacred. Our state of consciousness, our choice of relation to the divine and the sacred is under our control. It is ultimately consciousness and our attunement to the divine that determine health, nurturing, love, a desire to do good. A positive, cheerful, optimistic attitude and self-motivation are as important as diet and exercise. And yes, all aspects of modern medicine in determining the health and healing.
Thank you so much to Reverend Chris for that great talk, and to Peggy Bell for our wonderful reading. What a beautiful yard. I love the dog and the cat walking around in the backyard. That was just wonderful. Thank you, Peggy, for that. If anybody listening or watching is interested in being a reader for one of our future gatherings, please let me know. Email me at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net, and we will put you on the schedule. It is a fun thing to be able to do, and it's a wonderful way for everybody to participate in our gatherings. And so this is our opportunity to give our gifts and our offerings and our tithes in support of One World. And as I say every week, thank you. We are so grateful for your continuing commitment, your continuing generosity that enables us to continue to bring the programs that we bring. We bless these gifts and we commit them to the continuing work of One World, as together we share with the world the messages from the world's enduring faith traditions of compassion and peace and light, love and kindness. Thank you so much for your gifts.
Thank you so much for your ongoing generosity. You can easily donate to One World. Just go to our website, click on the Giving tab at the top, then the Donate link, and then this page will appear. And as you can see, there is a large Donate Now button in the center. That will take you to our giving app called Tithely. Or you can send a check to the address shown in the center of the page. Or you can also give using the PayPal link. Again, thank you so much for your continued generosity and support. We have one announcement today. On Wednesday, July 28th, we will be playing an interspiritual trivia game during our community circles. So save the date and come and test your knowledge. Feel free to get your own team together, or we can create the teams that night. We hope you will join us, as this will be a very fun night. And if you do not have our Zoom meeting information, email or call us so that we can get that information right out to you. See you there.
Let's take the next few minutes and focus on our kids. We are so grateful to our youth director, Reverend Rebecca Johnson, for all she does with our kids program every week, sharing the principles that we talk about here: compassion and kindness and forgiveness and gratitude with our kids. And she also enables them to bring their wisdom and creativity to each session. If you are interested in having your child or youth join our One World Youth program, please email me at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net, and I'd love to chat with you about our program. So let's just take a minute, looking again at a butterfly, let's just take a minute and bless our kids. Remind them that we see the divine in them, that we love them, and that we are so proud of each one of them. So together, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine in each and every one of you. And so now, as we move into our closing song and closing slides, let me say thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our gathering. If you have any pictures that you would like to send in to us that we can use in our closing slides, please do so. We love to see pictures of our community because it just keeps us up to date on what we're all doing while we're still online, and it's just wonderfully fun to be able to see what each one of us is up to. So please, if you have any pictures, try to remember to send them in. That would be great. I hope you have a wonderful and a peaceful and a blessed week. Thank you so much again for joining us, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Hit it, boys. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. Peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. Love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. Joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. All right. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next time, same place, same time.